So hey guys, today's topic of the video is going to be about an introductory video of Jacques Lacan. The first video I have covered before this topic is Sigmund Freud, the whole guide to Sigmund Freud. And after Jacques Lacan's video, I will be posting parts of the videos like the imaginary, the symbolic, and the real, the imaginary, and the symbolic parts of Jacques Lacan's theory. So in this video we will be focusing about the main theme of what Jacques Lacan want to discover and what is his theory about. But in this video I will be giving a small introduction of Sigmund Freud as well. So starting with the theory from Sigmund Freud, Sigmund Freud says that a human mind is a human self is made up of the unconscious and the consciousness, which is the id and the ego. So Freud introduces the idea of human self and human subject, which is radically divided between the two parts, which is the consciousness and the unconsciousness. For Freud and for psychoanalysis in general, actions, thoughts and beliefs and the ideas of the self are primarily determined by the unconscious and its drive and desires. So introducing who is Jacques Lacan. Jacques Lacan is a French psychoanalyst who is originally trained as a psychiatrist, and in the 1930s and 1940s he worked with psychotic patients. He begins in the 1950s to develop his own version of psychoanalysis based on the ideas being articulated in structuralist linguistic and anthropology. And you might think of Lacan as a Freud plus de Saussure plus Levi-Strauss plus Derrida. So he uses all the concepts of Sigmund Freud, but his Sigmund Freud, Ferdinand de Saussure, Jacques Derrida, and Claude Levi-Strauss. I have made videos on all these four figures. Link will be given in the description. So but major thing but the main influence and precursor to Lacan's theory is Sigmund Freud, and that's the main theory, and Lacan interprets Sigmund Freud theories. But before Freud there was a theory of humanism, and what Lacan do. So Freud, he interprets Freud in the light of structuralism and post-structuralism, and turning the psychoanalysis from the humanist perspective to the post-structural perspective. So in this video in this slide we will be viewing what Sigmund Freud says, what we learned from Sigmund Freud. So before Sigmund Freud there was the humanist notion of human being who has free will and determination. But what Freud does is to take the free will out of human and replaces it with the unconscious mind, which is made up of the unexpressed or repressed desires. This notion of the unconsciousness destabilizes the idea of humanist freedom and the humanist idea that the self could do anything, and it does not need any kind of repression. Because Sigmund Freud say that, but Sigmund Freud says that there is no free will. A person is not free, so there is no humanism. Freud proves it that he says that because the unconscious mind is filled with those things that are not freely expressed, so where is the free will? So as a result, the rational mind of the humanist theory got replaced by the unconscious mind in the psychoanalytical system. But Freud gives us a hope that there is a way of finding free will if we express all these things that are unexpressed. So he simply want to say to bring the pleasure principle to the reality principle, or bring the unconscious or the repressed desires to the conscious, and it will help to minimize the neurosis or repression in the unconscious. So Freud's goal was to strengthen the ego or the unconscious, or I is also ego. So that it will be more powerful in controlling the unconscious mind. So, but to Lacan, how Lacan contradicts Sigmund Freud? Lacan say that Freud's projects seem impossible to Lacan. Why? Because ego cannot take place the unconscious or empty the unconscious, because ego or I self or the consciousness is an illusion. It is not a material or actual thing, but it is a product of illusion, and it's a product of the unconscious self. I will explain that part in the second part of this section, which I will be covering in the real and then the imaginary and the symbolic. In the imaginary, I will explain that concept, that how of self is formed. When a child sees himself or herself in the mirror, and he forms the illusion of the self, that it is I, that the person in the mirror is I, but that is an illusion, because it is the mirror. The mirror is not showing you yourself. So Lacan's psychoanalysis is about the unconscious is the foundation of all being. So I hope that you got this idea pretty well. So moving towards what were the field of interest of Sigmund Freud and Jacques Lacan. So Sigmund Freud, for Sigmund, the mission, the project of Sigmund Freud is to look that how a polymorphously perverse child forms an unconscious using the Oedipus complex, right, which I have covered in the last video. And a superego becomes and how a superego forms, and a child and a perverse child becomes a civilized adult. Alright, but Lacan, what's the interest of Lacan in psychoanalysis? He says that how the infant gets the illusion of self. There is no self, but there is an illusion of self. Alright, ourselves are tricked. We are tricked to feel ourselves. So ourselves are illusions. And how child forms an illusion of ego. Alright, what is ego? The conscious self, which is identified by word I. So we will be moving towards the other theory of Jacques Lacan, the notion of the unconscious by Jacques Lacan. So central to the perception, to the conception of the human in the theory of Jacques Lacan is the notion that the unconscious, which governs all factors of human existence, is structured like a language. So Jacques Lacan says that the unconscious is structured like a language. He bases this sentence, he bases his theory on Freud's account of the two main mechanisms of the unconscious process, the condensation and displacement. And both these processes are essentially linguistic phenomena, which I have told you the metaphor and metonymy in the first video of Sigmund Freud, where meaning is either condensed as in a metaphor or displaced as in metonymy. Lacan's note that Freud's dream analysis and most of his analysis of the unconscious symbolism used by his patients depends on wordplay or puns or associations. So that all things are chiefly verbal. The use of pun or jokes and parapraxis and all these things, a slip of tongue, all these things are verbal, through which we form the idea of the unconscious. So Lacan says that our unconscious is structured like language. So that's why we understand our unconscious in these all words like slip of tongue, pun, association, etc. So Lacan says the content of the unconscious are totally aware of language and are particularly of the structure of language. So moving towards what Lacan says about language. When Lacan talks about the structure of language, he follows the ideas laid out by Ferdinand de Saussure. But Lacan modifies this idea of value by Ferdinand de Saussure, where de Saussure talks about the relation between signifier and signified, which form a sign, and insisted that the structure of language is the negative relation of the value among sign. What is value? Value is that one sign is what it is because it is not the other sign. Like A sign is A because it is not B. A sign is A because it is not 3 or 2. Alright? So B is B because it is B, it is not A. So that's the concept of value. So Lacan focuses on the relation between signifiers alone. Alright, so Lacan does not talks about the signifiers. Lacan just focuses on the signifiers. So the element in the unconsciousness, such as the wishes, desires or images, are all signifiers. So they are usually expressed in the verbal terms. So what we do and what we speak, we just give just words or way to expression to our unconscious wishes by using the verbal tactics. Alright, so these signifiers form a signifying chain. One signifier has a meaning only because it is nothing a signifier because it is not the other signifier. So for Lacan, there are no signifiers. There is nothing a signifier ultimately refers to. If there were signifiers, then the meaning of any particular signifier would be relatively stable, and there would be a relation of signification between signifier and signifieds, and the relation would guarantee some kind of fixed meaning, but there are no fixed meanings. Lacan says that the relation of signification don't exist in the unconscious. Rather, there are only negative relations, the relation of values, where one signifier has meaning only in relation to its signifier, which is it is not. I hope that you understand this concept. So moving towards the idea of the chain of signifier by Jacques Lacan. So Jacques Lacan says that I have told you in the previous slide that for Jacques Lacan there are no signifiers. So there is only a chain of signifiers and they are constantly sliding, shifting and changing and circulating. Keep in mind the idea of Derrida's notion of center, which I have made a video on and I have provided the link in the description. So no center, nothing. So there is no center for all these signifiers and nothing makes the stable meaning to any signifier. So Derrida's concept works here. So there is no way to stop sliding from one signifier to the next. One signifier leads to another leads to another, and there is a never ending signified or signifier. it's a continuously and ever flowing, ever changing chain of the signifiers. Alright, so it is like a dictionary. You look for one word and you get many other words, but you never get the thing that the word supposedly represents. So that is the idea of chain of signifiers. So Lacan says that the unconscious is made up of continuously circulating chain of signifiers with no center. So Freud says that how can we make a form or ordered meaning or ordered person or ordered self from these chaotic desires in the unconscious. But Lacan says that there is nothing happening which Freud's want. Alright, Lacan says that he defines self. How Lacan define self? He says that self is a process of is a becoming process. It's a process of becoming adult, and a self is a process of to fix and to stabilize and to stop the circulation of chain of signifier, so that stable meaning and the meaning of word I become possible. Though Lacan of course say that this possibility is only an illusion, an image created by a misconception of the relation between body and self. So Lacan says that it is not happening. You would not achieve that perfection. You will always be finding meaning to yourself, but there is no self, because self is an illusion. So that's the core idea of Lacan's theory. Alright, so ending this video, I will conclude this video. So there is a word particular, so I will discuss about the signifier I, the word I, which is a very peculiar kind of signifier. It has even within a stable system like the social, like I has value. I is not I because one eye is not the other eye. If I say I, it means me. If you say I, it is you. So the word signifier is I is one, but there are different signifiers or meanings of word I. So I is not going to mean one thing all the time. So I is very different kind of meaning. If I say page 130 of a book, it means page 130 of the book. Everyone in the class will open that page. But if you see the word I, it means different for every person. So that was all about this video. Thank you.